Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Rayge, and we are back today with some more Age of X, Professor Xavier Saga here. Now working on the global villains here for the heroic section. This is a very straightforward section, so as long as you're using the right teams and synergies. One of the most popular choices we have seen anyways has been Cabal and Orcus. And I actually do a little bit of a mistake here because I brought in Apocalypse earlier rather than later. As you can see, my team is consisting of 3 Orcus members with Apocalypse and as well as Zombie Juggernaut. Now, this is a very, very good team, guys, but I will say, if you're watching this beforehand, Apocalypse is really overkill. I over-invested in terms of mutant materials, so if you're watching this and following this along, I highly recommend actually swapping him maybe for like Omega Red Phoenix Force, just because he costs less. He's going to be doing the same, but you'll see in the playthrough here, this is node 1. You see how quick that is? In my opinion anyways, from the sections I've done in Age of X, Global Villains actually is one of the easiest because of the team synergies that we have here. We have access to some of the best teams like Orcus, but as well as Cabal, and as well you can bring in characters like Apocalypse, Omega Red. So you're not going to see a lot of issues here. I think maybe the last node or the second last node you can have issues depending on the team dynamic. Other combinations I've seen are some of the Undying team members that you can bring in with Zombie Jugs, right? But you can see what puts this team over the top is when my Apocalypse ults. I mean, he basically just almost clears an entire wave himself, and he's just trucking through, as you can see here, right? And then I really like Zombie Jugs, but remember, he is going to get taunt, so if you don't have him in high yellow stars, or I don't think I have him at a crazy red star either, you know, he could be that missing link where he can cost you that star level if you're not synergizing him correctly. So I wouldn't recommend bringing in Zombie Jugs unless you maybe have another Undying character with him, or unless you have him in high stars. As you can see, we have Orcus providing taunt protection as well, so that's why you can actually get the job done here. You know, pretty straightforward with Zombie Jugs. Even though he doesn't have Undying team members, he's able to at least get the benefit of Orcus. And I also have my Apocalypse, right? He can, you know, provide a bit of sustain. His ultimate absolutely hits like a truck. So just something to be mindful of. But yeah, I really like this team because Nimrod can start things off with a huge bang with his special. Apocalypse has that massive ultimate as well. So just a lot of good synergies here. This is not the best team either, guys. There's a lot of different team combinations. You don't necessarily have to bring in these 3 Orcus team members. You can bring in Scientist Supreme as well. But to be honest, these sections are quite straightforward. That bringing in damage dealers like Lady Deathstrike as well as Nimrod are really good choices. And you can see, even though Zombie Jugs isn't doing much, I mean, he's just a cheap investment here that you can get by. So as long as he doesn't die, right? Like I said, I think the only issue is probably the last node. If you don't have the right team synergy, he could be targeted by Ancient One and Shadow King. So just something to be mindful of there. So 3 nodes already, very smooth and quick. As you can see, this section is quite easy compared to the city, where you do need possibly the Vigilante team as that strong starting team there. Okay, so with this one anyways, the issue here is the Blades and the Oaths. And you do want to focus on the Night Stalkers team as soon as you can. You might need a little bit of RNG if you have Zombie Jugs for this node, because if, let's say for instance, Baron Zemo and Blade start off, they might target your Zombie Jugs because he has the taunt. But if they don't and they just target the Sentinels, even better. So that's where we're at, and this is why having that big ultimate from APOC is huge. Or again, if you want to save on materials, you can use Omega Red. Either way, they're going to be very powerful for this specific section. Highly recommend. And then what I do like about Zombie Jugs is when he does have his moment, I love the AoE he does, but like I said, he, as you can see, can get damaged quite easily, and if he falls, you may not get the 3 stars. And remember, for the progression of Age of X and Professor Xavier, we need the 3 stars completed for these nodes, so that way we can have access to the next section. So just something to be mindful of there. You may need a little bit RNG, but thankfully, like I said, if you're bringing in at least 2 or 3 Orcus team members, they're going to be able to protect your team a bit, especially if it's Sentinel, which I really like about this team mixture here. So even though my Zombie Jugs isn't the best, isn't the strongest with this lower red stars, I mean, he's still able to get by because we have a really strong Orcus protecting him. And then we also have Apocalypse, again, putting this team over the top. So as you can see, focusing on the Blades and the damage dealers there, because the rest of this, you know, Bionic Avengers team doesn't really do much, and we're easily able to get the 3 stars across the board. And that just leaves the last node, and this is probably the one that if you want to do a really cheap team, this would probably be the check here, because there's a bit of RNG involved when there's the Astral Team Synergy, as you can see here. We're not going to have issues with it, but I've definitely seen some gameplay, some guides, where it doesn't go so great if you don't have good team synergy here, if you're just bringing in a bunch of random characters, right? Because, again, Omega Red or APOC puts the team over the top. We can actually just focus in on Shadow King or Ancient One, and how quickly that initial wave just gets bursted down. And you can watch this and think it's easy, but for random teams that you throw in here, 5 random characters that don't have synergy, this node is actually quite difficult, especially that initial wave. We don't have issue because we have really, really good team synergy. So just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware and that you're not just bringing in any 5 random teams just because this looks easy doesn't mean it is. It's just because we played it the right way with the right teams and characters. So hopefully this is helpful, guys. This is the team that worked for myself, and I was able to plow through this. Now I'm working on the next section as well. We'll be back with some more gameplay, but hopefully this at least gives you some gameplay footage to work with here in terms of which teams work, which don't. And again, APOC was just a luxury. You don't necessarily need to invest in him for this, but at least now you guys can see the playthrough and the nodes here with the enemies. Thank you for your time as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.